guys, welcome to youth group. Ooh, I just covered Josh's face. Haha. Anyway, we're excited that you're here to join us online. We're going to kick off youth group. We wish you could be here with us so I could spank you in ping pong. But since you can't be here, we're going to have an awesome time tonight. We're going to play a game after we play a game of ping pong. All right, go.
All right, here we go. Oh,
that's a terrible ball.
That was awesome.
Terrible ball.
Right,
get that out of here.
Here's a good one. Here we go. Ah! All right, guys. So tonight we're gonna kick off with a really fun game. I'm actually gonna challenge Pastor Chad to this, and you guys as well. But tonight we're gonna do Name That Movie based off of the movie quote. So I'm going to speak some movie quotes, give you guys just a few minutes or a few moments to try and guess. And then you can.
I'm going to try to guess.
Now, I decided to go with Disney movies. Just only Disney movies. Now, they could be live action or animated, but I've got some quotes for you. And so we're going to kick it off.
So does anybody win or no? I guess you can't really do winners since we don't really know.
Yeah, since you're not. This is just for you guys to have fun at home.
Yep.
And if you are in a group,
pat on the back.
You guys can play together. So hopefully these are not too difficult. But I tried not to do too hard ones. So the very first one that we're gonna do is this. It says, "You control your destiny. You don't need magic to do it, and there are no magical shortcuts to solving your problems."
Can you say it one more time?
Yeah, you control your destiny. You do not need magic to do it, and there are no magical shortcuts to solving your problems.
Magic to do it. This person is a Disney movie.
Disney movie.
I'm terrible at Disney movies.
All right, 5 seconds. This was a newer movie, and it's the movie Brave. The movie Brave.
Oh, is that the girl with the red hair?
Yep, Merida. Her name's Merida. All right, so hopefully this will be an easier one. All right, so this is an older Disney movie from I think when I was a child, and it's this: "Listen to your heart, and you will understand."
Listen to your heart, and you will understand.
Listen to your heart, and you will understand. It's a movie about a girl who's trying to save her people.
Oh! Ding, ding, ding. I think this is it.
All right.
Yeah, give me a second. She's Indian.
Yep.
And she's, oh man, I forgot the name of it.
Pocahontas.
That's what I was
Pocahontas. All right. Here we go. Next one. We're just gonna keep rolling here. "If you focus on what you left behind, you will never be able to see what lies ahead."
I'm terrible at this.
This is probably one of my favorite Disney movies. Animated Disney movies.
What's left behind, you won't be able to see what's ahead. Is that something?
Yep, you won't be able to see what lies ahead.
What lies ahead?
This movie set in Paris. It's animated.
Okay, I gotta guess.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Ratatouille.
Ah,
yes!
All right. Here we go.
Hang on, I just want to do like a little, impersonation.
Okay, go ahead.
This is. He goes. I don't like food. I'm probably quoting this wrong. I love food. If I don't like it, I don't swallow.
Yes, Anton Ego.
Of course you remember the name, but
yes,
I just, it.
All right, so here we go with the next one.
Got one.
Next one. This is another good one. Another good one here. It says, "The flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and most beautiful of all."
So beautiful.
So beautiful.
I have no clue.
So
say it one more time.
The flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and most beautiful of all. This is a war.
I can show you the world.
No.
I was just wanting to sing Disney songs, that's all.
There's war in this movie, even though it is a kid's movie. It's great. It's Mulan. Yes, the Emperor is actually the one who says that at the end of the movie, the Emperor. All right, here we go. This one will hopefully be easy. This is also another one of my favorite ones here, and it says, "The past can hurt, But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it.
The past can hurt.
But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. Think older Disney movie. Dad Dies, which it seems like in all Disney movies.
I got it.
All right, let's see. What's the answer?
Bambi.
No.
Dad did die though.
No, Rafiki said that in The Lion King. The Lion
I was like, Rafiki? What movie is that?
Rafiki said that in the movie The Lion King. All right, here we go. I'm only brave when I have to be. Being brave does not mean you go looking for trouble.
Ooh.
This is not the movie Brave, by the way.
Right. No, I remember this. I'm only brave when let's say it again.
Yep, I'm only brave when I have to be. Being brave does not mean you go looking for trouble.
And I would have thought that would have been the movie before from The Lion King. That sounds like that would fit there. Man, I don't know.
It is The Lion King, by the way.
What?
I did back-to-back on purpose to try to throw him off. Mufasa.
So I was actually right.
Yes.
Technically, I got it wrong, but I was actually right. So technically, I'm right. So how can I be technically wrong and right?
I don't know.
In my universe, my truth is I'm right.
All right. So here we go. Just because it's what's done doesn't mean it's what should be done. Just because it's what's done does not mean it's what should be done.
Sounds like what every parent says to their child.
It is actually what parents say to their children.
Just because it's what's done doesn't mean it's what should be done.
Yes.
Yeah,
This was probably one of the greatest life lessons from a Disney movie. It's about a girl.
This is not a Disney movie, but I want to say Rambo.
No.
No. I know why that comes to mind, but I'll have to share that later.
It's Cinderella. Cinderella. Yes. All right. Here we go. I'll be there someday.
I'll be there. No.
I can go the distance. I will find my way if I can be strong.
We're going the distance.
This is a little bit of a more
Say
difficult
it one more time.
one.
I got like.
All right. I will be there someday. I can go the distance. I will find my way if I can be strong. You've got to really love Disney movies to love this.
I don't.
Or to know this quote.
I don't.
You gotta love it.
It
was Hercules. Hercules is the one who said that.
Hercules.
No.
That's a different movie altogether.
Different.
Nutty Professor.
Different movie. All right. So we've got two left. Two left here.
I think I've only gotten one right. I technically had two right, but whatever. Who's counting?
All right. So this next one is one of my favorite quotes from one of the movies, and it's "Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, dishonor on your whole family."
Okay, I think I got an educated guess.
Okay.
Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow.
Yep, dishonor on your whole family.
All right, we'll wait a couple more seconds to give people
give you an opportunity.
Viewer
but if you don't get this, it's probably one of the funniest parts in the whole movie.
Yeah, I'm probably wrong, but I like having guesses. I don't like it when I have blank and I got nothing.
All right, so
Beauty and the Beast.
No, it is not Beauty and the Beast. It's actually Mulan again. Mushu is the one.
Double Dipper. I was thinking like Gaston.
Oh yeah.
No one stinks like Gaston. Says jokes like Gaston. Like I can just hear him saying, "Dishonor on you and your cow."
This is question number 10, the final question, and probably one of the most difficult ones, unless you know the movie well. And here's the quote. It says this: "Now think of the happiest things. It is the same as having wings." Now think of the happiest things, and it's the same as having wings. Okay, so we'll give you guys just about maybe another 5 seconds, and we'll take a stab at it here.
Okay, got it. I'm gonna take a hook at it because I think it's Peter Pan.
It is Peter Pan. Peter Pan is correct. All right, guys. So listen, that was so much fun. Hope you guys knew your Disney lines. If you didn't, I'm really sorry. But Disney.
I failed.
Great.
I won because I'm not competing against anybody, but I failed.
All right.
So stay tuned because there's announcements next.
Yes.
And somewhere throughout Youth Group, you're going to have your chance to win the $10 gift card to Dairy Queen. So
check you guys later.
Here we are.
Youth Group.
Segment number 2. Announcement time. I know this is like the favorite time of the night.
Because everybody listens to announcements.
Everybody loves and listens to announcements. So we do have some pretty important stuff coming up.
Yes.
The very first and probably one of, not the most, but one of the most exciting things we get to share with you tonight is that on August 6th is our first night back in person youth group. So August 6th. So today's the
24th.
23rd? No, 23rd.
Yep, the 23rd.
23rd.
Yep.
We knew that.
We did.
And that means next week is the 30th.
Yep.
So we have tonight and next week are online.
Yep.
But then after that, August 6th, we're going to be back in person. And not only are we going to be here, tell us what we're doing on that night. Why is that night so special?
All right, so we are so excited because we are going to be outside in the back. In the new property back there. We're pulling out the huge slip and slide.
Oh, yes.
And we're going to get wet. We're going to have games outside. We're going to have a cookout. I mean, because everybody loves to eat when they come to youth group, right? So everything's actually going to be outside that
I'm going to
night.
eat cows and pigs.
Cows and pigs, yeah.
Actually, with the hot dogs, it might be chickens and
other things. I'm not really sure.
goats.
But we're going to be outside that night. We're going to have fun, slip and slide,
Sweet.
water games. It's going to be a great time.
Yes.
So you want to bring like clothes that you can get wet in. And
Challenge,
a towel.
I'm dropping the gauntlet to see which adult leader can go the farthest on the slip and slide.
Which adult leader? I have some people in mind that I
And
think
we have
will do
some
it.
murder hornets next door
Yes. In the
that we
property.
could give incentive to run faster and slide faster. I don't know, just a joke, totally joking.
August 6th.
August 6th.
Normal
so
time, 6:15 to 8:15
Yes.
here on.
Oh, so what they got to bring then? They got to bring. Did you already say that?
Yeah, so I told them they need to bring clothes they can get wet in a towel. He wasn't listening.
I was not listening.
Please bring a towel.
Like
For the
say-
love of all things holy, bring a towel.
Yeah, and a plastic bag to put your wet clothes in because I
Yes.
would imagine you want to go home dry and your parents don't want you getting all wet in
Yes.
your car. So bring a towel, bring a change of clothes, bring a plastic bag. It's free, all right? So you don't got to pay anything. It's going to be a lot of fun that night. Our first night back in person, and we'll be for the most part outside. So if there's a concern about being cooped up inside and getting each other's saliva, we'll be in we'll be in soap outside. Sorry.
We'll be outside. We'll be outside that night for you.
Then
Yes.
I heard that school is getting pushed back.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, no matter, we are still going forward with something that you probably heard us saying a little bit about, but now we're getting closer and the details are starting to get solidified. We are doing our very first
ever.
What is it?
First ever fusion recharge.
Yes!
We're going to
Fusion
plug
recharge.
you into the wall with an electrical socket, and hopefully you don't get a shock. That's what we're
We'll
doing.
see how far his beard will go out.
Yeah, not really. So what are we doing at the fusion
All right,
recharge? Though?
so
what is it?
First and foremost, it's meant to be something that's in between camp and winter retreat. Those are two of our big events of the year, our biggest events. And we wanted to have something that was kind of a recharge to challenge us to get back on track or to stay on track for following God, especially as we get back into school. And I know technically it got postponed or it gets postponed by 2 weeks or something like that. That's fine. So technically it's only like 10 days away from when you get into school. But nonetheless, it'll be a fun night. So it's going to be on a Friday and a Saturday, 14th and 15th.
2 days, all right.
Friday evening from 6 to 10.
Okay.
And on the Saturdays from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. And so we're going to feed you. There's going to be dinner on Friday. There's going to be snacks and lunch on Saturday. We'll release you in time for dinner that night for your family or whatever. But here's the cost. It's going to be $25.
Okay, $25.
And in that $25, you're covering not only the food, all the supplies we have for games, but we're also renting, my understanding, renting some big things that are going to be outside. I want to give you all the details just yet, but it is going to be water related. You know, we're still kind of in that summertime. So we'll tell you as we get closer, but that'll be another night you'll have to, or day you'll have to bring some clothes to change into and that kind of thing. But it's going to be some pretty big things on our property, on the back property here, that are water related. That'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be just like a winter retreat, but like
Small scale,
a
I
small
guess?
scale. We're not staying the night here at the church.
Right.
You're going to go back home and then come back on Saturday.
We're going to have games.
We're going to
and stuff
have
like
games. We're going to have teams. All right, depending on how many people sign up. Speaking of sign up,
yes,
we need to know who's coming. So this is a very affordable price, $25 for everything that you're getting and we're giving. We're gonna have a band come in and lead worship for us. So we're excited about that. But we need to know who's coming so we can get food prepared and how much to buy and all that. So tell us about how to get signed up.
Yeah, so we're doing online signups. This will be the easiest way for you guys to sign up, for us to know who's coming. And so right here at the bottom of the screen, there's this really weird link that's right here, and this is how you find where to sign up. Now, we're going to post this link on Facebook. We're going to post it on Instagram. We're going to post it on the church's website on the Fusion page.
Well, so if they go to a church website, like maybe they click on that link, but if they don't know how to get the link, they just go to the church webpage itself?
Yeah, they can just go to the church webpage itself, and there's the Fusion page on the church's website.
Okay, so it'll be there.
And it will be right there, and it will have the information there. All we're really asking for is just a name, phone number, and what grade you're in. We just need to know who you are and what grade you're in, and that you're going to be here on those 2 days.
Sweet. So I'm going to do a totally impromptu thing. All summer long, we were doing our summer fuse, which kind of got canceled at the very end, kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we were trying to do was we were giving them an incentive to bring guests and to try to keep them to continue to come.
That's right.
So if you brought a guest during the summer, we will allow them to come and we'll kind of pretend that they are a brand new person. Meaning, even if they came once or twice, we're going to still count them as a complete brand new guest. And if you bring a brand new guest, a brand new person, they are going to get to come for $10.
Ooh.
$10. So normally it was $25. It'll only be $10 for them. So if you can get someone to come for your whatever, we'll put them on your team, all that good stuff. Only we'll pay $10. And so whether they came during the summer, can't be someone who's already in a youth group, that's a different story.
Right.
We want to encourage you to bring a guest, bring a friend, bring someone who doesn't come to youth group here or maybe only came once. And we believe this is going to be a very powerful weekend event, and we want you to be a part of Fusion Recharge. Don't miss it. Sign up online. Stay tuned.
See you there.
I'll be back. Okay, guys, so here we are. This is the 6th week of Do Hard Things. And before we jump right into the message, I got to bring us back and recap, especially if you haven't been hearing all the messages or maybe you've missed a week or two. I want to give us a recap. And just so you know, tonight's going to be very practical in nature. I won't be digging really deep into Scripture tonight as much as we will be focusing on how to take everything we've heard in the last 5 weeks, or at least the 5 weeks worth of material, and be able to put it into practice. What do we do? How do we become, as we learned last week, to be a revolutionary and to be able to rise above the level that culture has set for us? So here we go. Here's a recap of Do Hard Things. The very first week, we looked at the myth of adolescence. We looked at the idea that the teen years are just for fun. That they're not meant to just be fun, they're actually meant to be there for a purpose to get us ready for the future. Week 2, we looked at a better way that those teen years were meant to be, and we used the illustration of a diving board, that a diving board is meant to propel us into the future with precision, so we don't miss out on something great that we could have accomplished if we weren't being so focused on just making our teen years about us and having fun and getting us ready to do harder things as we do get into adulthood, but that we're preparing ourselves so we're not just kind of flopping in or having a diving fail. Week 3, we talked about raising the bar, dealing with complacency and striving to do your best, meaning not just what the average is or what culture says is good enough, but what is your best, the way that God's gifted you and the talents and the abilities that He's given you, and doing your absolute best, not just good enough, not just average. So raising the bar. And then week 4, we talked about taking a stand. Standing up when you have to. Is God real to you? And if He is, at some point, you have to stand up and say, I'm going to be a follower of Jesus Christ. There's a line, a proverbial line that we have to draw in the sand to say, this is my stand. So taking a stand, standing up, and then last week, week 5, we talked about less about us, focusing in on us. We zoomed out and we focused on a generation that needs to rise up. And seeing the bigger picture that maybe there's people out there, not maybe, but there are other students and other teenagers out there who are ready and wanting to do the same thing. To not just be an individual, but to be a generation that rises up. We talked about being salt and light in the world. We talked about the 3 pillars of character, competency, and collaboration, and how we need to have those 3 pillars if we're going to rise up and if we're going to take a stand and be a revolutionary. Tonight, week 6, we're going to talk about more of the practical, but before we do, I want to tell you a story about something that greatly impacted and affected me and our youth ministry. In 2013, I had been here at our church for about 2 years at that particular time. I decided to do something crazy, and I decided to take our teenagers to a totally and completely different camp. For years, we had been going to one camp that was right here in town, and that was just the way things had been, and I wanted to try to do a different scenery, and I wanted to try to do something that was not so close to home, where there was maybe a temptation to just come, call mom and dad and go home or whatever it might have been. And I took this big risk, and boy, was it ever a big risk. I mean, it wasn't just like an hour or 2 down the road. It was 8 hours away in a different state in the mountains of Georgia. And that was a big risk. It was a big gamble. And boy, did I ever hear about it. I mean, the walk was too far. The walk was too steep. There were too many stairs. The food isn't good. I hate my cabin. I mean, everything wasn't right? I mean, when you've been doing something for so long, for so many years, and you come to try to do something new, especially if it's not your idea, you don't like it, you want to let everyone know how much you think it's terrible. So I'm like, man, this may not go very well. Well, on the very first night of camp, there were so many things that happened that week that were firsts for me. On the very first night of camp, God showed up in such a powerful way that I had never seen in my life at all, as a youth pastor especially. And I mean, more or less, it was the beginning of revival. I mean, in church time afterwards, where we all got together as a church group, every single kid was sharing, was broken, was weeping. All of our kids, if not maybe every single one, were down at the altar. It was just one of the most amazing nights. Some first. I had never seen God show up like that on night 1. And not only show up like that, I've seen God do great things, but I'd never quite seen the contrast was so great from where we were to what God did on the very first night. Well, what happened as the teens began to share that night about what God was doing, every teen started kind of saying the same thing. And I noticed that there was a pattern. They were like, yeah, I really was kind of mad about being here at this camp, and I really hated it and hated this and hated that. But now I'm so glad I came. And the more I listened to them, the more I started thinking, holy cow, had God not shown up on this very first night, I probably would have had a mutiny on my hands. But what I want to talk to you about is not so much that specific, the complaints about camp. What I want to talk to you about was what God did for us there on that mountain. And many times when we talk about a mountaintop experience, we talk about the reality that we don't want to come down because we know when we come down it's going to be hard to keep doing the same things. And we know it's going to be hard because there's going to be temptations. And what was super clear, and we were super focused about, and our priorities were very clear at a place like camp. We know that a week, 2 or 3 weeks later, things are going to start to get fuzzy and gray and difficult. And so for us, when we were up there on that mountain, we knew that coming down was going to be the hardest part. It was going to be discouraging. I knew I was excited for what I was seeing, but I was also nervous for what was going to happen after. How are we going to get through this? The truth is that God doesn't intend for us to stay in the mountaintop experiences. He wants us to experience them. He wanted Moses to experience it, but he never intended for us to stay there. Moses had to come down. In 2013, we had to come down, and we did. God wants to take what He's done in us in a mountaintop type experience and help us to see that He can secure those changes and He can help solidify those decisions and change those directions, because we have to rely upon Him for it, not the mountaintop experience. Not the camp. The camp wasn't magical. The year wasn't magical. I thought it was going to be a disaster. Thankfully, God showed up. But we couldn't rely upon that moment, nor can we go back in time and have it again. God wants us to have moments with Him, and we want to have times where we encounter God. And I believe we experienced that just a few weeks ago when we were at camp. God did some great things. And so, not that I'm trying to put this on the same level, but here we are. We've gone through 5 weeks of material of doing hard things. Hopefully, in this process, you've been inspired, you've been challenged, something inside of you said you need to step up. You need to take a stand. You need to be, even if you're the only one. And you're inspired, but it's like, all right, we're at the end now, and this is going to come to an end. It is. It's coming to an end after tonight. And then what? Do I rely upon God to see this take place in my life? Maybe you've hopefully been challenged to not settle for the cultural average. Maybe you have a burning desire in your heart to be different than what culture dictates. Maybe you know that you're not doing your best. Forget everyone else's standards, or maybe that your friends are better than you or worse than you, and maybe that's the problem, right? We think I'm better than most all my friends, so I don't really need to improve. Maybe God's put something inside of you to say, step up and do your best. So how do we end this series? How do we walk away, and what do we do with all the information that we've received? How do we, and this is what I want you to notice on your outline tonight, how do we make it stick? Anything, whether it's this series and some challenges, and maybe God's given us some big vision picture of like, I want you to do this. Or maybe it's camp or a winter retreat or hopefully recharge that you come to, and you're like, how do I make anything that I gain, how do I make that kind of stuff stick? I don't know. That's kind of what we want to talk about tonight. Mountaintop experiences get us very excited. Our priorities are clear. The path is visible. We know what we want to do, but when we start our descent, when we start to come down or get away and time elapses, the excitement will soon fade away. Just a few weeks ago, we were at camp. I love going to camp. There's something so energizing about it, even though it's also very fatiguing, if that's even a word. It wears us out, and there was a lot of stressful things that happened, but it's so awesome to see God do great things. But even now, it's been 3-4 weeks, I don't know, and time has elapsed. Excitement has faded. What do we do? How do we make this stick? We're going to see more obstacles in our way as time comes. Instead of seeing the big picture and the vision, we many times will get narrow focused and we'll only see what's right in front of us. We don't feel as strong and as motivated as we once did while there or in that moment. Maybe you've been like me and you've ever watched a movie and have been like inspired and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. For me, one of those movies that inspired me was one that I actually referenced earlier. It was Rambo. When I was a kid, I watched Rambo, like the first Rambo, right? Like the most recent one I think is pretty wicked. But anyway, first Rambo, man, I mean, he drew first blood. Like he had this little thing where he like put his headband on, he was like, and then he put his face paste on, you know, and he put his knives in, he had his guns and his grenades and all these different things he was strapping. It was this really cool scene, and I was so motivated by that scene. I was out there like, you know, moments after trying to find all these things. Can I find a knife? Can I find my mom's makeup and put something on my face and look like I'm a warrior and put some kind of headband on and put my boots on? And I didn't have any camo, so I maybe put some green pants or something on and try to make myself look like Rambo. Maybe you've experienced something like that. Or maybe you've watched a movie or something that's inspired you to like, you know, I'm going to get serious. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get ripped. I'm going to do whatever. I don't know. Maybe you're going to be a great person who makes, you know, crafts, whatever that is for girls. I don't know what you do, but all I know is many times the excitement wears off, right? And especially if it comes to me to get motivated to work out, like it never seems to last, right? There has to be something that makes it stick. So how do you get from a big idea to meaningful change? Well, that's hard. That's hard to do. So I want to help us answer the question, how do I make it stick? And the answer is, you'll see it on your outline, it's this: chart a clear course. Chart a clear course. No, I'm not going to give you an actual outline tonight for you to follow that says, do these 5 things and this is your course. It won't work like that. I promise you that. But I'm going to give you 3 examples tonight of teenagers who have charted a course that was based upon their specific circumstances, their specific individual life, and we want to learn from the principles that they have used. And so hopefully at the end tonight, you'll be able to say, okay, well, how can I chart a course for me, a plan for me to make something stick? Anything, something that comes from God. How do I make it stick? So let's look at 3 examples tonight. The very first one is a guy from Georgia, the state of Georgia, right? He is a junior in high school, and his name is Noah, and his action plan is called Out with the Old. Out with the Old. So listen to his story. Noah realized for him, being a revolutionary means finally getting serious about the unseen compromises in his life. His youth pastor recently gave a hard-hitting message on Hebrews 12:1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily besets us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Noah knows that some weights in his life are keeping him from running his best race. His halo addiction, for example. He's one of the better players, and he knows that, and he knows it for good reason. He plays almost every single day, often late into the night. His grades suffer for it, so do his friendships and his family. In fact, besides going to church with his parents and his younger sister each week, he rarely spends time with them. This isn't the first time that Noah has felt convicted about these things. Last summer, he went on a short-term missions trip to Mexico with his youth group. He said, after I got home, I cut back on Halo for the rest of the summer. But once school started up, I don't know, I just kind of slipped back into old routines. But this time is going to be different. I know that if I really want to start doing hard things, I have to get rid of some old things first. So they're not on your outline, they're not going to be on the screen, but here's 5 things that Noah made as his action plan, charted his course so he could help him become a revolutionary, and it's a stick. Number 1, he said, I'm going to put my Xbox 360 for sale on eBay. Wow. Like, he didn't just say, I'm going to stop it for a while. He said, if this is going to work, I got to get rid of it completely. Now, he's not saying he's never going to play again. He's saying, I recognize there's a need for a clean break. If I'm going to get serious about this, plus telling his friends at school why he's not playing anymore will give him a perfect opportunity to be able to speak about being a revolutionary. And notice the second thing. I thought this was very intriguing. He said, I'm going to rearrange my room literally. Now, the reason why this is important for him is because his room was set up to be one purpose, a place to play Halo. So every time he walked into that room, he recognized he's reminded of the things that he used to do. So he needed to kind of get a clean break, not only from Xbox and Halo, but let me just rearrange my room. I've done that sometimes in a similar way. Let me just declutter my desk and clean it up and get it so my mind can be clear and focused on the tasks that I have to have at hand. And for Noah, that was what he was doing. He was rearranging his room, getting it set up for success. Notice the third step. He said, I'm going to talk to Pastor John about reading some good books. Now that's interesting. He decided he wanted to ask someone who's older and more spiritually mature and in tune with God, what should I be reading? I'm putting myself up underneath you as an authority on spiritual things to help guide me in my life. So get rid of the Xbox, rearrange the room, talk to Pastor John, what should I be reading, which means he's going to be reading. That could be like a 4th thing. But number 4, spend personal time with my sister. Ooh, I know. Spend time with my sibling. Ugh, right? But his thought was, you know what? One of the relationships that's been hindered because of this is my sister. And so he decided he was going to make time, even if it was just running to Starbucks or let's just run to the grocery store, any opportunity he could. He's got a little bit of time left, and he knows that she's going to be going into high school soon, and so he wants to help her transition and be there for her. And notice number 5, he says, I'm going to join dad or mom on a work project at least twice a month. What? Like, join mom and dad? Maybe you're thinking, okay, I can go along with some of those, but that one, that's too far. Well, this is what he needed. He said, my dad's always doing projects around the house, and he decided he wanted to be intentional about doing things with his dad so they could talk about stuff and get his dad's input. Now, you got to remember, he's not just saying this is a good idea to do. He's saying the reason that I'm doing this is because if I want this to stick, I realize that some people in my life that need to know about it and what's going on are my parents. And so one of the best ways he was going to do that was to establish and build that relationship back up to where it had been really damaged because of the time he was neglecting because he was playing Halo. And I want you to notice we're going to close out his section with a statement that he made. He said, it's just a start, but it is where I am headed that matters. Because you're probably thinking to yourself, man, like sounds really great, but I don't know if I could chart my own course. And then I'll look at it and think, oh, that's great, but I know that's not really going to work. Well, the truth is that may not be those 5 points may only get him so far. At some point, maybe he has to kind of reevaluate and retool them. But he realizes I'm on the right path. It's where that I'm headed that matters. So let's look at the second person. This is the second example, and this one's called helping those who stand alone. Helping those who stand alone. This is about a girl named Serena. And for Serena, being a revolutionary means redeeming some wasted years in terms of her sexual purity. Serena made several poor decisions about that, and she realizes it was wrong and wants to make up for that time. She knows that God has forgiven her, and now her passion is, I want to help other girls, especially her fellow Latina friends, and help them avoid make the same mistakes that she made. In her circles at school and work, she knows that there are girls who really don't want to give in to the pressure, the culturally, the way that they dress and the relationships and being involved sexually, but they don't know how to stand by themselves. And so it's her goal is, I'm going to do this for myself, but I'm also going to try to help others. Hence, helping those who stand alone. So she said, there are so many girls out there who are hurt and confused, just like I was. I want to help launch a revolution on this issue of sexual purity. So here's her 5-step plan. Number 1, call Mrs. Lopez and schedule a meeting for coffee ASAP. You say, well, who is Mrs. Lopez? One person most responsible for helping Serena change was Mrs. Lopez. She came to her at a time when she was broken, and she helped share with her some of the decisions that she made, and she encouraged her and helped her to see you can change. And so here she was reaching out to an older woman at her church saying, will you please now help mentor me? You helped me get from this place to this place, but I'm not satisfied to stay here. I want to help others. Will you help me? You helped me. Help me learn how to help them. So she put herself underneath someone. Number 2, set up a blog and start writing articles. What a cool idea. She's not just going to say, hey, I want to help encourage somebody. She's like, no, I want to make this a thing. And so she sets up a blog. Eventually, she wants to have a full website with stories, articles, discussion forums, and a pledge for purity. Maybe one day she'll even have a magazine, but for right now, she's going to start with a blog, create an email so other girls can reach out to her who are struggling. And her first articles are going to be her story and the lessons that she's learned. One day she's going to have other girls share their stories, but for right now, it's her start. So get under Mrs. Lopez, set up a blog. Number 3, instant message Nikki and see if she'll help design a flyer. Now, this is intriguing. Nikki is another revolutionary girl who wants to do the same thing, but in a different way, and her story is unique to her. But Nikki has the ability with graphic design, and she's gifted in it. So she said, you know what? I'm going to grab her and see if she'll help me get the word out. You know what that is? That's collaboration. That's her working with someone else to say, hey, I got something that's too big for myself. Can you help me do it? We talked about that last week. So number 3, instant message Nikki about that. Number 4, ask Sarah to help me spread the word at school. More collaboration. Now, who is Sarah? Sarah is Serena's best friend, and she's a total people person. Serena is more of the introvert. She's not real big on just walking up to somebody and saying, hey, you want to do this thing? So she realizes, I need someone who is gifted that way to help me accomplish this. So more collaboration. And number 5, find out what it takes to start a nonprofit organization. She knows it takes a bit of work to become a government-recognized nonprofit, so she's going to do the research and find out what she has to do to get involved. She knows she won't be able to do it right away, but she's going to go all the way with this one and doesn't want it to limit her for what God has for her to do. Now, Serena's got like big picture. She's got big vision. She's seeing like this is something that God has given me the path. No, I don't like that I made these decisions and I regret that, but I'm not going to let that define me and become who I am. I'm going to let that be a learning thing, and I'm going to use that to help other people. So what was she doing? She charted a course that was specific to her life, that God is going to use for her to do great things. Notice how many people she brought into that by those steps. There were at least 3 different people who she was saying, help me do this together. And then notice the last thing. This is a Serena's statement before we go to the third one. She said, I honestly don't know what will happen, but I do know that nothing will happen until I trust God enough to take that first step. So this for her was a first step, or several first steps, but steps that needed to be taken. Many times we have to step out and say, God, I don't know what and how and the future holds, but I know you're speaking to my heart, and I know you have greater things for me. Help me to live to my potential, what you've created me to do, my best. The third, and it's called this, rethinking companionship. Rethinking companionship. All right. For 14-year-old Brandon, phase 1 of his revolution is to completely reevaluate who he hangs out with. He was convicted when he read Proverbs 13:20 when it said, walking with wise and being the companion of fools. He realizes that if he wants to rebel against low expectations and live radically for Christ, he's going to need friends who will encourage him to fight for that higher standard. He doesn't have that right now. In fact, Brandon has noticed that even his friends who say they're Christians don't really live like it. Even worse, lately he's caught himself being influenced by the jokes that they tell and the language that they use. He knows he can't talk like that at home, but he started doing it at school and in an effort to fit in. It has worked. His friends all laugh and slap him on the back, but fitting in isn't what Brandon wants anymore. I hope those words resonate with you. Fitting in isn't what Brandon wants anymore, and hopefully there comes a point in time in your life, in our lives, where we draw the line in the sand and say, enough is enough. I'm going to stand up for God. Brandon was referencing this. He says, Jesus said that it doesn't matter if you have the admiration of the world if you lose your soul. And Brandon thought, do I want to please Jesus, or do I want to live my life pleasing my friends? Brandon had another insight. He said, if my friends are influencing me, then maybe I'm watching/reading what I'm watching and what I'm reading and what I'm listening to is doing the same thing. It's influencing me. If foolish human companions harm you, according to Proverbs, aren't foolish movies and videos and books and comics and jokes just as bad? That was his thinking. He said, I'd never thought of them as friends before until now, but that's exactly what they are. Sometimes I spend more time with those companions than my human friends. And actually, they are all pretty depressing. So here's Brandon's 5-step revolutionary plan. Number 1, talk to mom and dad about everything. That's a hard one to swallow, isn't it? I remember as a teenager, that was the last thing I wanted to do, was let my parents in on anything that was going on in my life. Like, I didn't want them to know. I didn't think they were cool. I didn't want them to be a part of it. And that is a natural thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's sinful. But Brandon knows that if he wants this thing to stick, now this is what I want you to catch. If he wants it to stick, he's got to let his parents know what's going on in his heart and what's going on at school. I know you may not like it and you may not fully agree with it, but just hear me out. Number 2, he says, talk to Jake and Logan at school tomorrow. Say, well, who's Jake and Logan? Jake and Logan are Brandon's best friends at school, and more than anything, he wants them to join him on his revolution cause, rebelling against low expectations. He realizes that the first step in changing his friends is to change what kind of friend he is. What kind of friend he is. Now I want to take a pause right here. If you're watching this, listening to this, this is the moment that I told you that you had to watch youth group to be able to earn the $10 gift card to Dairy Queen. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to answer to me the 10th question, the answer to the 10th question that we had in the trivia round about what quote came from the Disney movie. If you can text me to my number, and I'm not going to give it out online, if you can text me to my number the actual answer, all right, you will win the 10. It has to be the first person and the first person to get it right. You can't just text me and say, hey, I'm here. You can do that, but you won't get anything for it other than me saying, hey, glad that you're here. All right, so if you don't have my number, find somebody else who knows it. Ask a parent. Reach out to me some way. I'm not putting my number online for all the world to see, okay? Just chill. First person to get to me, first time I read that text, you will win the prize. All right, there you go. Number 3, so first of all, he said, talk to mom and dad about everything. Number 2, talk to Jake and Logan at school, and his step is I'm gonna challenge them to join me. Instead of just saying, hey, I don't want to be your friend anymore, he said, I want you to join me. Number 3, invite Drew and Brady over this weekend. Now, Drew and Brady are older kids in the youth group, and they would be new friends or new companions to him. And they're already trying to pursue Christ. And specifically, these are guys who already are talking about Christ. So they're leaders in the youth group. So he's saying, you know what? I need to start hooking up with people who are already heading in this direction. So that'll help me stay on that path. Number 4, cut back on internet use except for projects. Ooh. He says, not that he's not going to use it at all, but he's going to stop the non-human companions unless he absolutely has to do it for school or whatever it might be. So online videos, social media, games, whatever. Brandon realizes that technology can be a tool used for good or for bad, depending on how he uses it. He just realized he needs to cut back. Maybe that's you. Maybe it's not a complete 100% cutting of everything, but maybe it's, I need a break. I need to fast away from these things that are distracting me and keeping me distracted so that I don't focus on the thing that God wants me to see. And number 5, spend at least 30 minutes reading my Bible every day. 30 minutes. That is such an important thing. Brandon realizes that being, or more than having a good friend and more than having a good companion, that he needs to personally know the ultimate companion, and that's God. He's committing that I'm going to spend time, I'm going to make it a priority to get alone with God, the ultimate companion. The one who really needs to be changing his thinking and changing his thoughts comes from God and from His Word. Even on non-school days, he's going to make it a priority to get in God's Word and search for Him there. Brandon doesn't know how everything's going to happen or what will all happen after these first steps, but he knows that he has to start taking them now. Listen to what Brandon said. He said, I'm the first revolutionary that I know of at my school, but I know there are other teens who are looking for something more. Maybe I can show them what that is. You might be the only person in your circle who really decides, I want to start being a revolutionary. And you don't have to call yourself, by the way, a revolutionary. Maybe you don't like the term. Maybe it sounds lame. Fine. Call it what you want. Call it being a follower of Christ, because that's really what it is. Maybe you're going to be the first person who stands up and says, I don't care if I'm the only one and if I'm ridiculed for it. You got to start taking the first steps. So now let's look at the practical steps. What are the practical steps that I can take? Now we're going to talk about taking these 3 examples and the principles of of how we can make an action step for us. Why is it important that we don't follow somebody else's plan? Well, because each person develops that course of action that's geared to where they're at. Like, it wouldn't make fully sense at all for you to take Serena's because she's at a totally different place, unless you're at a very similar place to Serena. There are some principles, though, that were found in every single example that we can use. So I want to follow these 3 examples and give you 5 or 6 different principles that we can use. So number 1, identify what you need to get honest about. Identify what you need to get honest about. What is the one thing or things that you need to be real about? You need to be honest about. Meaning, what is keeping you from really stepping up and being serious about being a revolutionary? Think about that for a second. What's the one thing or things that's keeping you from doing that, from saying, I'm all in. I'm gonna rebel against the culture, and I'm gonna be a follower of Christ. What is it? And be honest about it. For Noah, it was his realization that he was addicted to Halo. Halo wasn't an evil thing. Xbox isn't an evil thing, but he realized he was addicted. And you know what? The truth is, Halo wasn't the issue. It rarely ever is. Maybe it's the idea of him being needed by other people, but to be that he needed to be honest about. Like, you know what? It's not really about Halo. That is something that needs to change in my life. But really, it was about him needing to be needed by other people. Like, I gotta be there. I'm the best player. And that's usually what it boils down to. It was hurting his relationships with those who are around him. So what stands out to you? What's the number 1? I got to be honest about this. Number 2, identify who you need to be honest with. Identify who you need to be honest with. For Brandon, it was his parents and his friends. He needed to make sure that his parents were a part of his life if this was going to stick. He also needed to make some changes with his current friends. I said this earlier, but notice he didn't end his friendships. He made an attempt to lead his friends instead of just rejecting them. He said, hey, guys, I'm going a different direction. Will you do this with me? And not only that, but he went to people who he needed to become friends with and start following because they were already following Christ. He needed to be honest with those people because that was one of the best ways this was going to stick for him. And I don't care who is watching or listening to this tonight. If you want anything to stick, listen to what I'm saying. If you want anything to stick for God, you will need to bring your parents into the conversation. You will need to bring them in. While I may not have ever wanted to be super close with my parents and have this amazing relationship, but the very first thing that I did when I got saved was I called my parents and I apologized for all the wrong that I'd done. No one told me to do it. It was a prompting from God because He gives us as children one responsibility: honor your father and your mother. And that means whoever it is that is your parental authority and figure in your life. It may not physically be your mom or your dad, but you do have someone who God has placed in your life. And bringing them into the conversation with you is going to help make anything you do for God stick. Number 3, decide what negative patterns or decisions need to end. What negative patterns / decisions need to end? For Serena, it was very clear. Not only did she need to end her bad decisions, she had to put some other things or people in her life to help her to stop. For Noah, it was Halo. But Halo wasn't the enemy. It just needed to stop for that period of time in his life. He needed to get it gone. That was how it was going to stick. What needs to stop? And even deeper, what are you willing to do to make it serious for you? What negative things need to be cut out like a cancer? Not that they're the evil, but that for right now, for you to succeed, for you to grow, this needs to go. Hey, that rhymed. Okay. Number 4, identify and approach people who can help you get from point A to B. Identify and approach people who can help you get from point A to B. Well, what does that mean? Serena made a beeline to Mrs. Lopez. She said it ASAP. Have coffee with her ASAP. Number 1 on the list, I got to go talk to this person. Who is that one person in her life? Why did she go to her? First of all, because she had already shared her story of redemption with her, and she saw how God changed her life. So naturally, she said, will you help me do the same? Help me get to where you're at, where I'm taking other people and I'm helping them come along? Who has God allowed you to connect with that is older, spiritually mature, that can help disciple you? Listen, identify who it is and then go to them. Approach them. Don't make them come to you. You go to them and you say, humble yourself and you say, will you please meet with me? Will you please pour into me, disciple me, whatever it is, mentor me? I need to grow. If I'm going to make this stick, I need someone to help me. Identify and approach. And number 5, determine which 1 or 2 action steps need to be taken to keep you from backing out. A lot of times we make decisions and we think, oh, we mean well. But there's got to be some things that we put into place that kind of like as a lock it in. Like, that's not a guaranteed 100%. You can do what you want to do. You'll do what you want to do. But if you really wanted to make it stick, what decisions or steps need to be taken? Noah sold his Xbox. Told his youth pastor, got connected with his parents. That was Noah. Serena, Mrs. Lopez, and that helps to keep her counted and connected. Well, she also connected with 2 different friends, Nikki and I forget the other girl. Brandon made his parents the first on his list. He also connected with Drew and Brady to help him get from A to B. So sometimes your action step is a what, but many times it's a who. So what are your action steps? Who will be a part of that action step? Number 6, I said 5. 6 is the last one. Plan out what steps you will take to draw closer to God. Now, of course, you might say, okay, read my Bible and pray. Yeah, that needs to be a part of your steps, because if you're not doing that, I can promise you this, you won't grow and you won't change, and it won't last. So yes, that's a given, but will you make a commitment to meet with God every day? I challenge you, I already have, but I'll challenge you again. Do the devotion that we're doing. I challenge every student that if you can do 90% of your devotions in a quarter, so in a rough 90-day period, you can do 81 of those devotions, and that's 90%. And you have to do them and you have to comment in them. It's an online YouVersion thing, whether it's on your phone, app, or computer, or whatever. You can do those things and you're going to earn $25 Fusion cash to go towards. By the way, you can use it the Fusion Recharge or Camp or Winter Retreat. Those are the 3 things you can use it on. But not just that. It's like, well, that sounds bad to give an incentive. Well, if that's what it takes to help, because the truth is you have to build the discipline first. The desire comes later. You're not going to desire to get in God's Word 2 and 3 weeks after you get back from camp. At some point, it has to become a discipline. The desire grows and hunger grows for God. And then you hunger for God through His Word and to seek Him in prayer. That will grow, but at some point you have to discipline yourself and say, I'm going to get up every single day, school day, Sunday, Saturday, no matter what it is, and I'm going to spend time with God. If you're going somewhere early in the morning, go to bed earlier, get up earlier, spend time with God. Even if it's just 5 minutes, do it. Make the commitment. Take the step and plan out the steps that you need to do to spend time with God. So these are 6 principles that will help you establish, from the inspiration, hopefully, and the provoking that God's done in your heart to cause you to change, that He wants you to do great things for Him. Those are 6 principles. But to get it from the mountaintop experience or the big vision, you must employ them. So write out your plan. I want you to notice this no, it's not really a point, but I wanted you to think about this. I referenced earlier on in the message, in 2013, I took a group of teens. I even showed you some pictures. I want you to look at this picture again. And I want you to see, and you may not know everybody on the screen, but I want to point out some statistics that I know of about these teens 7 years later, and what's happened. Out of the 30 kids that we took to camp that year, I know for sure that at least 14 of those are still actively going to church. 14 that I know of. Maybe more, but I know 14 are. 12 of those I know are not just attending church, but they're actually serving in some way in their local church. 12 of them. 4 of them are actively serving in youth ministry right now, and 3 of those in that picture are your current youth leaders. I would call them out, but they would be embarrassed, but their picture's on the screen and they probably hate it. 3 of them are on staff here at our church. Now, Why do I share that with you? Because I want to ask you this final question, this thing on the outline. What is your plan? I don't know that those 14 of those 30 kids and they were just kids then, they're all adults now, well, most of them. I don't know that every single one of them thought to themselves, let me write out an action plan. Maybe it was something similar, but here's what I do know. At some point, there had to be a stepping out, a stepping up, and there had to be some principles or some disciplines that were built. There had to be some steps that had to be taken to get them to where they are today. Some are fully committed. They're on staff in ministry. Not everyone can do that, but my point is many of them are, half of them or more, are following God with their life. That excites me because the realization is not about the camp. It's not about the mountain. It's not about me. It's about God working in our lives. So what is your plan? I want to challenge you to do something right now. The likelihood that you'll do it later gets slimmer, all right? Will you take the next 10 to 20 minutes to think through specifically for you what your course should be? What should your course of action be? What should your action plan be? You already have some ideas probably that are going in your mind about, I know I need to cut that person out. They're like a cancer. I know I need to stop doing that. That needs to, and I know I need to have a conversation with my parents. Maybe you need to have a conversation with God first. But what action steps do you need to write them down? Start tonight. Maybe you share them with no one at first, but maybe you just privately write them down in your journal or on a piece of paper, something. Write them down. Start thinking out and writing out your plan. If you wait, oh yeah, that sounds good, Pastor. That's wonderful. I'll get to that. Are you serious? Do you want to become a revolutionary? Do you want to make a difference? Do you want to make a stand? Do you want to be who God has created you to be? I'm not saying that you can't if you don't do this thing, but what I am saying is it will help you. Create an action plan tonight. Write it down. Let's pray. God, I thank you for the principles, and not just tonight, but all the past several weeks we've been going over in this series, Do Hard Things. It's provoked, hopefully, our thinking and challenged our thinking to not be complacent and lazy. God, I think we struggle with laziness really badly. I think laziness keeps us from being who you've made us and created us to be, not just to be about ourselves, but to glorify you with the things that you've given us. I pray that you would rise up out of our youth ministry, even like the picture that we showed earlier. I pray that you'd raise up and kids that are in our youth ministry right now to do amazing and great things for you. Not so we can look at them as a trophy, but so we can see more people of a generation rising up to make a difference in their culture and in their world. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Thank you guys for watching. I hope somebody will win the $10 gift card. Enjoy that. Don't forget about August 6th, our first night back at youth group. Next week we're online. Slip and slide night that night. Cookout. Bring your swimming trunks, all that good stuff. Then August 14th and 15th, Fusion Recharge. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Sign up online. We'll see you next week. I got a really bad feeling this thing's not recording.
So this is the first thing, so we gotta, that's pretty exciting.
All right. Excited. Oh, excited. All right, here we go.
You start. You're the excitement.
All right, awesome.